Welcome back, Hypno Junkies, to Chaos Head Noah. It has been a bit of a spell since I played this game. I recorded a whole bunch last week and then I was super busy and I haven't played this game in a week. But you know what? I reviewed some of the old videos. I think we're good to go. Last video certainly hit us with a lot. Showdown on my rooftop, or Takemi's rooftop, I should say. Ribby pulling out her sword, Senna trying to kill us, lots of backstory for Senna, which we were probably due for, and some shocking twists about Takemi. Takemi, where's your house? How come you have a hospital room? Not too much speculation off the last episode, really just kind of stuff coming up and more questions that are obvious. Really, the only thing I'm thinking of right now is wondering whether or not the Takemi that we've been running around with this whole time has been a delusion, and the real Takemi is sitting in a hospital room there, the one that Shogun visited. And that would also explain, again, we have this cutscene at the beginning of the game where Remy basically kills us for whatever reason, and we seem awfully understanding about that. That would make sense if she was killing off the delusion, and it would also make sense if they were trying to get the actual Takemi to awaken, because they keep saying awaken. Takemi needs to awaken. He hasn't awakened yet. You're going to awaken him. I'm assuming they mean the us that's in the hospital room. I'm guessing anyway, but we are starting what may be the last chapter. It might be the second last, I'm not sure. We basically ended off on that little cliffhanger, and I guess we're joining Yua and Ban on a subway car, so let's go ahead and do that. Also, the chapter is now called Gigalomaniac, so take that for what you will. From the train windows, an indigo blue could be seen permeating the sky. It's been a week. I'm not going to remember anyone's voices. Good thing I wasn't doing very good ones. The trains of the Yamanote line grew chaotic as businessmen and students alike made their way back to their homes. Two of its passengers, Kuzunoki Yua, I think I said that right, Kuzunoki Yua, yeah, and Yasuji Ban stood shoulder to shoulder as they shook along with the commuting train, holding on to its hanging straps for stability. They were admittedly an odd pair, they are, and perhaps due to how much they stood out, Yua had been feeling constant gazes coming from all around her. Just keep up the father-daughter routine, it works. It would stand to reason that this was why she was repeatedly fidgeting with her hair and glasses. She still was not yet acquainted enough with the detective, Ban, to strike up a casual conversation with him. She had only met him a few days prior, after all. Shinjuku was only a single station away from Shibuya, and yet the 3 minutes it took to reach there felt helplessly longer than they should have. We're still waiting for that third earthquake, too, which would also be in line with that opening sequence I was talking about before. I'm pretty sure there was a major earthquake when Remy was standing over us with her sword. Ban simply stood silently, gazing out the window. He made no attempt to speak with Yua. Yua's current impression of Ban was that he did not seem to be a bad person, but he was still somewhat frightening. She had met other detectives that were on the case involving her sister, makes sense, but none of them had left an especially good impression. Perhaps that had left her with an unconscious prejudice against detectives, and by extension, Ban. Or so she had concluded in her introspection. God, okay, there's an ESO nerd on the train. Just had to let that end. I'm telling you, if you defeat the bandits in the 15th underground floor, you can get to a secret dungeon. It's common sense, man. Use your brain. How in the fuck am I supposed to know where the bandits are? Ever since the two of them had boarded the train at Shinjuku Station, two men standing near the door had been talking in an excessively loud manner. Regardless of her desires, Yua was forced to listen to those two talk loud as could be, all without an ounce of consideration for those around them. They're on the left end of the map! Just use your eyes, man, and you'll see the damn bandits! Yeah, well, you can't even tell the difference between thieves and bandits, so I don't know what you want me to do. Nah, dude, it's so obvious that they're bandits. What even makes you think they're just normal thieves? Bandits don't have weapons, dumbasses. I was playing Hand of Fate, or streaming Hand of Fate, on Sunday, and bandits are a major enemy there, so that's what I'm thinking of right now. Both of them wore plain clothes, bandanas, fingerless gloves, and bulging rucksacks on their backs. I wondered where we were going with this. It's the Rucksack Boys. You'd think they wouldn't be drawing attention to themselves. The two were a pair of so-called otakus. Well, I don't know about that. They're wearing rucksacks, so I judge. Yua herself was interested in and thus consumed both anime and manga, so it was not their appearances that left her surprised. She had simply never been to Akihabara before, so it was her first time seeing a stereotypical otaku, complete with the clothes and everything. Realizing her curious glances were quite rude, she quickly averted her eyes. In the seat directly in front of her, a high school girl with brown hair and a navy blue blazer was typing a message on her cell phone. Her gaudy artificial nails tapped the screen rapidly, and every time her fingers moved, her cell phone strap of a pistol swung back and forth. Interesting choice. Naturally, Yua had seen the contents of her message. This was not through any fault of her own, however. The girl was holding her phone horizontally, giving everyone around her free rein to see everything she wrote. It was so easy to see, in fact, it's almost as if she wanted Yua to see it. Uh-oh. Oh, never mind. Nobody wants to see that. Okay, so, like, yesterday, wait to the mixer with the co-op and was so boring. You couldn't restroom at all, so annoying, like, oh my god, kill yourself. Yes, thank you for blessing the train with that. Despite being a high school girl herself, Yua could not even begin to grasp the contents of the message. Oh, well. What are you saying about me? It was possible that it could have been Garu speak, but to her it looked like nothing short of a coded message. Bang! What's that about? All of a sudden the voice of a child rang throughout the train's interior. Startled, Yua turned toward the source of the sound. A lone boy about 5 years of age stood right beside Ban. He held a squirt gun in his hand, its muzzle pointed straight at Ban. The boy even pulled the trigger, but no water came out from the end of it. Yep, that's my name. Ban gave the child a big smile. His eyes, meanwhile, told a different story. However, despite the message Ban attempted to convey, the child showed no intention of stopping. Show me your real gun, Ban. Stop that, Nobu-kun. A woman, likely his mother, rushed to her son's side. She turned toward Ban and politely bowed. I'm sorry, please excuse him. Nobu-kun, I told you to stop that. You guys are all going to die in an earthquake in like 2 seconds. The mother scolded her son in an attempt to make him stop, but her reprimanding never extended beyond verbal. She did not take the water gun from him, nor did she attempt to grab his hand. Ugh. Yep, not terribly effective. I'm really sorry. It's alright. I don't mind the little scamp. Don't you see her bothering this man? Nobu-kun! To you, the scene seemed very unnatural. The mother was clearly angry at her child and showed an apologetic demeanor toward Ban, but that was the only normal thing about it. I mean, kids played with a gun. That's enough! I'm going to count to 3. Are you now? It seems like a kid that's used to getting away with stuff, so... The boy remained completely indifferent and unresponsive, simply choosing to repeat the same word over and over and over again. And yet, despite his inaction, the mother made no attempts to stop him with anything other than words. I'm really sorry. Wasn't there someone that was trying to make some message to Ban at some point by saying his name over and over or something, or repeating some phrase? I don't know. I'm getting shades of that. I'm getting deja vu of that for some reason. Yua is commenting on how unnatural things are, which makes me think we're about to get hit by something. And for some reason, Ban simply stood there, or sat there, and let the boy do as he pleased. Oh, it's not in italics anymore. In the end, the scene continued on until they arrived at Shibuya Station. Oh, thank goodness, I was getting a headache. Upon coming to a full stop at the station, the train doors opened, but the mother and son showed no signs that they intended to disembark. Relieved, Yua exited onto the platform along with Ban. taking a peek at his expression, she saw a clearly forced smile sitting across his face.
お急ぎ中のお客様にお知らせいたします。
Attention all passengers.
地下鉄番号門線。
A personal injury accident involving Ban.
失礼しました。
Apologies. A personal injury accident involving Hanzomon Line has made it necessary for passengers to transfer to another line. We apologize for any inconvenience. Lately, I've been having this feeling. Yeah, no kidding. That was, I mean, the kid yelling Ban over and over again. That could be mistaken for Ban. That was a little bit more explicit. A crowd of people came and went through the platform. As Ban walked through along with that crowd toward the Hachiko gate, he began whispering to Yua. Like I'm being stalked by a large number of people. How many, I'm not sure. What do you mean? I mean, there's been an awful lot of what happened just now. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Makes me wonder if the people around me are all out to get me. Well, Momose said you might be making some enemies. This was the reason why Ban had shown no reaction to the boy's mischief. Events such as those, ones that did not present much trouble, were becoming an everyday occurrence for him. Once he had begun picking up on it, it made it difficult for him to stay of sound mind. But, I'm probably just overthinking it. I know many people out there could care less about a plain old guy like myself. Only problem is, gang stalking is a real thing. Gang stalking? How is that different from normal stalking? I don't know. Take a guess from the word. Well, the victim of gang stalking has no idea what the motives, intentions, or the identities of the other parties are. To put it simply, it feels like every day, no matter where you go, someone's out to get you. That's what gang stalking is. Could it be you're just overthinking it? More than likely. There's a real fine line between gang stalking and confirmation bias, after all. Though for me, it doesn't seem like that's the case. They've been using some pretty direct methods these past few days. Yeah, no kidding. The 5-year-old is in on it, guys. Methods? Like... Or maybe that was all being manipulated by the rucksack dudes. I've been threatened multiple times over the phone, telling me to back off. Or else, I'd assume. For some reason, Ban laughed as he told her that. Yua, however, was frightened and wrapped her arms around herself in an attempt to bring her comfort. Are you not worried about that? Call it an occupational hazard. Upon saying that, Ban immediately stiffened his expression and looked at Yua. Has this been happening to you too as of late? No. I don't think so. If you feel even the slightest bit that it might be, you better not think twice about letting me know. I'm a cop. My job is to protect and serve folks, and that includes you, Yua-chan. Right. Having listened to his words, Yua realized she was involved in something far more dangerous than she could have imagined. Alright, that's our interlude. Takumi? Takumi's not having a good day. Never mind. Oh, no, that's Ribby. You are... a delusionary existence. Okay, so what Psy'Min says at the beginning of the game. I mean, that's the only explanation, right? Because we're in Crazy Town, and by Crazy Town I mean where I grew up, and by where I grew up I mean not where I grew up, because where I grew up isn't here. Her voice a whisper, Remy said something nonsensical. Ignoring what she'd said, I glanced at the various houses around me. In this place, well rooted in my memories, in this place I couldn't seem to recognize, houses that should have been there were nowhere to be seen. Houses that shouldn't have been there were all I could see. The gap, the disparity between what I knew in my memories and the real scenery surrounding me was getting wider and wider. At the end of the last episode, I thought it was just our house that was out of place, and all the other houses were what we remembered. Now it's like that's becoming not the case. No, there's no gap! Yelling those thoughts aloud, I desperately denied the despair welling up in my heart. Yeah, there wasn't any gap. No, not in the slightest. I'd just taken a wrong turn. This wasn't the right street or something. Yeah. It was just a misunderstanding on my part. There was nothing wrong with the world. To think otherwise would be ridiculous. Stumbling my way back down the street I'd come from, I burst into the neighboring alleyway. But, just as I'd feared, between my memories and what I actually saw, something felt out of place. I realized that my entire body was soaked in sweat. Well, that's your standard state at this point. My eyes refused to focus, and my feet didn't feel well secured to the ground. All those feelings together hit me with an intense wave of nausea. And we're back here. Why? My house has to be here. It has to. I always walked to elementary school, middle school even, from here. I used to hold hands with Nanami as we walked to elementary school together. Every day. And in middle school, I went by bike. What middle school? Remy, who had been following me, quietly asked a simple question. What's that supposed to? Do you not remember it? What was the name of the school? What? Everyone knows that. It's right around here. What? Huh? I couldn't remember. Didn't Bond go to our elementary school or something? He interviewed one of the teachers. Which school was that? Was that maybe after? I don't remember. I can't remember either. He can't remember, I can't remember. I'd gone to middle school. I had clear memories of it, but I couldn't remember any of the finer details. It was as if some intense haze was covering my mind. The name of my middle school, which class I'd been a part of, or even the name of my homeroom teacher. No specific names came to me. Wasn't the middle school homeroom teacher the one who died in the bus accident? Saito or something? It can't be. I just forgot. Taku, listen to me. In your memories, it's not my house is right here. It's my house should be right here. That's how it feels, right? My sanity was hanging on by a thread. Again, standard state. But I remembered the whole route here, didn't I? How do you explain that? Because those memories were fabricated. Stop making that face. Is this going to tie into what we heard about with Senna's father? Because he was sort of involved in stuff semi-tangentially related to that. Remy's eyes were pointed straight at the ground as she looked terribly sad. Without looking up at me, she just continued saying the most confusing, nonsensical things. Things that, once again, I didn't understand. Things that were impossible to understand. So, I stopped trying. You've never been to middle school. I get it now. Oh, do you? Oh, this is a prank, isn't it? Isn't it? Nope, he doesn't get it. Yeah, I see right through you. You and Nanami actually know each other, and you're both trying to prank me. Yes, we rebuilt another house from scratch where your old house used to be as a prank. Haha, got you. Phooey, I see. It all makes sense now. Oh, you really got me. I tried my best to laugh it off, but Remy didn't even so much as chuckle. I'm sorry. The next thing I say is going to hurt. But I have to say it. Uh-oh, here it comes. Taku, you should never have existed. Yeah, that's a mean thing to say. That was just rude. Stop fucking lying to me! Had to bust out the caps lock for that one. She was just trying to deceive me. Remy was my enemy, just like all the others. The crucifixion was your doing, wasn't it? Oh, we're finally going to call her out for that? If that was true, then what had happened at the crime scene when I'd first met her hadn't been a delusion. The true culprit behind New Gen wasn't the man I'd seen on the hospital TV earlier today. It was Remy. Yeah, that's another thing. The culprit was arrested, and I say culprit in air quotes. What's that going to be about? She had been monitoring me the entire time. She knew I'd witnessed everything, so she refused to let me out of her sight. Also, I would never tell anyone else what I'd seen. That was the sole reason she'd bothered staying with me all this time. You were covered in blood back then. That means you're the culprit. That was the delusion you wished for. That's a weird thing to say. Why would we wish for a delusion involving someone we'd never met? Sometimes, when a gigalomaniac's delusion is too strong, it merges with other people's delusions. Oh. So, whose delusion was it then? Their delusions synchronize. Interesting. I wonder how this is going to play into certain things, because we've seen stuff happen on weird timelines, things happening before they should have. Even Nanami's whole situation, where she seemed to go from fine to having a bandage around her hand, to having her hand missing, to now just not existing. Like, what's up with that? That's a weird order of events. Calmly, as though she were talking to herself, Remy spoke. And yet her composure only served to piss me off even more. Oh, it's time for us to pick a thing. We're not picking a thing. We're not picking a thing until we hit an ending. At least 4 delusions synchronized at... What? Holy hell! I wonder if that would have changed if I had to pick something. I'm pretty sure I had an option to pick something back then. At least 4 delusions synchronized then? Whose and what and how? Yours? Okay. Ours? Fine. Alright, you were there. Let's confirm that. The New Gen culprits? Okay, so if we're going to say that someone else was involved, but then why were you there? Is the 4th one going to be Shogun, or is it going to be something way out of the blue? I won't even let us finish. No, I want to know. Don't cliffhanger me like that. Like I'd believe that. Before she could continue, I cut her off. I then covered my ears and closed my eyes. This is all the delusion. Takami's making the choice for me. He's like, I pick red. Yeah, it has to be. It's a delusion, just like always. No, he picked green. He picked green. Please don't have any more delusions. Apparently we can't help having them. Apparently we are one. Explain that. She spoke in a quiet yet serious imperative tone. I gulped. She's probably saying this for the same reason Senna says it. Otherwise, I'll have no choice but to erase you, Taku. Aha! See, we're getting on this now. You're gonna kill me? That's not what she said. A chill ran down my spine. My perception of Remy, the girl I'd thought would save me, was rapidly spiraling. No, she was turning into someone completely unrecognizable to me. You are, aren't you? I knew it! You really are a murderer! So why did she look so... Biting her lip as she fought back tears, hanging her head low as could be. It all made me hesitant to accuse her of anything. Tell me it's all a lie. Tell me it's all a prank so we can laugh it off. If you do, we can go back to how it used to be between us. I want to go back. Then, what am I? I suppose a person created through a gigalomaniac's delusions. So again, I think Takami is the mega gigalomaniac, but he's in the hospital right now. He's not here standing with Remy. He's basically a delusion of, hey, I don't want to be in a hospital bed, so I'm just going to have a delusion of myself having a normal life. For certain definitions of normal. That's absurd. I have memories of my own. I might not remember the little stuff from middle school, but I just forgot, that's all. You were born only a year and a half ago. Oh, okay. That's an interesting timeline. A year and a half ago. Interesting. I wonder what that lines up with. A year and a half ago, that would have been when I just started high school. Then wouldn't I be just an 18-month-old baby? I'd be going goo goo gaga, but I'm not. Well, flawless logic. From the moment you were born, you were yourself, Taku. Are you saying it with you saw it with your own eyes? Sure, we've allegedly been friends for a year and a half, but I don't remember any of it. I first met you a month ago. Aha, so you were lying. At the crucifixion crime scene. Okay, we're getting some answers. I wasn't always a Sume student, so I'd never met you before then. Rimi was a complete schizo. A complete and utter schizo, just like all the others. No, not just schizo, super schizo. She was a top tier, not even Senna or Ayase could hope to match. Then who created me? Explain that. Well, either you created you or Shogun created you. Aha, okay. Who is still in the hospital, presumably. Who created you? Nishiju Takumi-kun. Yeah, I call BS. I'm a delusion, right? Then you're telling me I had a delusion and created myself? You're contradicting yourself. Get owned. That's not the own you think it is, buddy. Or maybe this is all your delusion. I mean, someone delusioned her into the classroom. A completely fictional story that you came up with all on your own. Well, leave me out of it. I didn't want you to know either, Taku. Nor did I want to come here. I should have tried harder. I should have tried harder to keep you away. Then, gathering her resolve, Rimi raised her head and looked straight at me. Her eyes glimmered with sincerity. It didn't seem like she was lying. She felt entirely genuine. But now that we've come this far, I think it's best that you know the truth. But it wasn't the truth. It was all a lie. It had to be. Otherwise, my last thread of sanity would snap. Besides, who would ever believe someone who suddenly decided to hit them with, "Oh yeah, BT dubs, you're a delusion." BT dubs, you're a delusion. Lol. I also think it's best that you know that everything you do is slowly chipping away at someone else's life. Wait, I know. What about Nanami? It's slowly chipping away at someone else's life? Is that what the LI was going to say? Is that going to be Shogun? If I'm a delusion, then is Nanami, my blood-related sister, a delusion too? What about my parents? This makes no... Do you see them? Nana-chan exists. Oh. Well, I didn't expect that. From the way Rimi talked about her, it was almost as if she knew her. The one who kidnapped her. Was it you? It might as well be. I was so focused on protecting you, I never considered the possibility that they would target her. Who's they? I thought you were working with Shogun. I know who the kidnapper is. Well, I mean, so do we. She really was a demon girl. I was right. I'd always been right. Never trust 3D. I should have listened to Sarah. Rimi was the only one I'd wanted to be on my side, and even though I'd always believed that, there had always been more than enough reasons to doubt her. And yet even so, I feigned ignorance, and simply trusted that she'd keep her promise to stay by my side. Who was the fourth delusion in the alleyway? We've been interrupted on some key points here. But despite all that, just like Yua, Rimi was... So you betrayed me too. Yes, I betrayed you. I hid so many things from you. I mean, it seems like it was kind of in his best interest, so I'm not sure it counts as a betrayal, but we'll see when all the information comes out. I'm sorry. I understand if you hate me. Even if you apologize, I won't believe you. I can't believe you. Despite my words, it was impossible for me to prove that I was real. All the supernatural things I'd seen up until now flashed through my mind. And that's when I knew I couldn't just laugh off her words as some insane ass pull. I love this guy's turn of phrases. As I thought that, Remy slowly began to approach me and then embraced me. Taken completely by surprise, I surrendered myself to her. I could feel her warmth. She had saved me. She had saved my soul. She had taught me nothing but kindness. But now, despite being in the center of her embrace, her warmth could not have felt more distant. I have to go soon. Go? Go where? This guy needs an adult. Which you're not, but you'll do. To where Nana-chan's kidnapper is. I have to settle things once and for all. Not just with Nana-chan. Everything. Oh, that's an interesting sentence. I have to go where Nana-chan's kidnapper is. She's been fairly non-kidnapped since the whole kidnapping situation, so how does that work? Huh. Shit about to go down. At this rate, I won't be able to protect you, Taku. I can't believe how careless you are. After all the horrible things you said to me, you're just gonna leave me? Remy started inching away from me, one step then another. Slowly, she distanced herself. I'll be back. Just stay in your room, Taco. I don't think he was planning on going anywhere. And when I do get back, we'll just talk. We'll have fun just like we used to, which probably means you're not coming back. You can just stay in your room. It's okay. Such a gentle tone. Even though she'd said all those cruel things, why was she still being so nice to me? Because they were true. But you have to promise me one thing. No more delusions. Again, we don't really have a whole lot of control over those things, as has been evidenced on numerous occasions. Okay? Your delusions are far too strong. The more delusions you have, the more the lifespan of the real you gets whittled away. Okay, so she was saying life. How does that get connected? What are you? Alright, I'll see you tomorrow. Bishi! Remy struck a pose, saluting me with the most unnatural smile on her face. It could not have been more forced. And only a moment later, from her eyes, quiet tears began to fall. And there she goes. Remy frantically turned her back to me, and as her shoulders started to tremble, she ran away. And I, having been left behind in a stupor, sank helplessly to my knees. What do you mean, the real me? I'm not a fake. No, you're the real Takami's figurine. All color vanished from the world. All hope I'd once had was gone. My very existence had been denied. Wow. Talk about being turned down. There was no meaning in me being here. Not even my death held any meaning. Remy had left me, leaving behind a meaningless husk. She was my enemy. She had deceived me. And now, having said her piece, she had probably lost her final remaining reason to be with me. I'm sorry. That was not a voice I'm familiar with. She's not coming back. Was that my voice? That didn't sound like my voice. Remy had abandoned me, but of course she had. I was a delusionary existence, according to her, a monster. Okay, he's just going Chuny mode. That had me worried there. I thought Shogun was behind me. He. Oh, there goes the last of that sanity. That thread snapped. Forget it. I didn't even care anymore. With no willpower to even stand up, I just stayed there. Still unable to organize my thoughts. Incapable of crying due to just the sheer shock. The twilight wind robbed me of all warmth. That's a cool transition. And the very little that remained of Remy's faded completely. As I looked up at the sky for no particular reason, I gazed at the sunset. A sunset that had almost been completely eroded by the dark of night. And there we go. Oh, hey, we're back here.
これが新作？またへんてこね。
So this is the new one? Another oddball, I see. Who did we drag up here this time? Not Yua, then. Oh. Momose smiled as she stared fixedly at the Garo Froggy keychain Bon had just purchased.
でも可愛いじゃない？
But my, if it isn't cute. No, we need to examine this thing. This isn't a new one. It's the one from last week. What was his name again? Bon glanced over at Yua as if pleading for help. The teary Garo Froggy. Yeah, that.
ごめんね、ゆあちゃん。
I'm so sorry for putting you through that, Yua-chan. Having to keep this unpleasant old man company must have been awful. Oh, that's not... Ouch, come on, Momo-chan. You and I both know it's not every day you find a middle-aged guy as dandy as me. With Bon's half-joking protest falling on deaf ears, the president of Frieza... I'm never going to stop calling it that. The president of Frieza served Yua some tea. Heaving a deep sigh, Ban sat down on the chair and glanced around the office. I want to know more about this frog. Is this some sort of mini rucksack transmitter? The employees of Frieza, who usually worked well into the night, had actually returned home on time today. Each worker's schedule was arranged to tell this exact tale on the whiteboard. Thanks to their departures, despite the sun having only just set, the office was completely silent, as if it were the dead of night. So, Momo-chan, you end up looking into Faithworks? I vaguely remember that. Before riding the train from Shinjuku, Ban had called Momose in advance and asked her to look into Faithworks.
その前に。
Before we get into that, smile still on her face, Momose glanced over at Yua, who was sipping from her teacup.
ゆあちゃん。
Yua-chan, I really do think you should head on home once you're done with your tea. You trying to boot her out? Certain things she doesn't need to hear, huh?
日も暮れたし。
It's getting dark already. Won't your parents be worried about you? Yua realized what the intent behind Momose's words were. Whatever the conversation that would soon take place, it was not meant for Yua's ears. Exactly. Psy'Min picked up on that as well. Are you worried about me?
え、そうよ。
Why, of course, dear. Momose nodded with a serious look on her face. Although thankful for her consideration, Yua shook her head definitively in response. I'm not going anywhere. I'll do anything in my power if it means I get closer to the truth behind Mia-chan's death.
あなたはこれ以上。
You really shouldn't get yourself any more involved than you already have. I'm well past the point of being an outsider. An imposing, unwavering resolve dwelt within Yua's words. Momose was perplexed at the unexpected opposition.
意外と頑固ね。
Surprisingly stubborn for a young lady. Well, venturing her this far into the game would be a tad cruel, don't you think? If push comes to shove, we can leave her with the guys at the station for a while. Momose was forced to sigh in response to Ban's nonchalant attitude.
バンちゃんにそんな権力があ
Do
る
you
の？
even have that kind of authority? Well, though I may not look it, I do belong to the world's finest criminal investigations division, courtesy of the TMPD.
あら、そう。
Could have fooled me. Upon pacifying Ben to a suitable degree, Momose stared intently at Yua.
これから聞くことは、
Under no circumstances are you to disclose anything you hear from this point forward.
これはあなたの命に
This is a matter of life and death.
それを
You need to understand this. Okay, you may regret this, Yua. Okay, I understand. Regret incoming. Yua nodded, her expression far stiffer than before. Upon seeing that, Momose sighed once more, then proceeded to take a seat. What are we going to hear? Momose, hunching her already rotund body forward, operated the mouse connected to her laptop. So, what popped up about Faithworks?
バンちゃんの予感的
Let's just say your gut was right on the mark. Both Ban and Yua appeared at the monitor from behind Momose.
有限会社振興の親
Faithworks Limited, parent company, is Nozomi Technology. Well, there's the connection. Yeah, what she said. From the Nozomi Group. Now that's a surprise. Oh, that's right. Faithworks is the one who sells these things. Well, that would make sense. 5 years ago, Faithworks merged into Nozomi Group, and from that point forward, one after another, all of their products became a big hit. It's not just the Gero Froggies. Handbags made in China, reusable shopping bags made in Thailand, some sleek-looking pants, and so on. And what's more, this company's way of selling their products is especially peculiar. All of their new products are launched exclusively on the weekends. Weekends. That word stuck out especially to Bon. Yeah, we have our suspicions. Could it have something to do with the GE rate? Whether it's a coincidence or simply inevitable, the reason why Faithworks products are such a big hit is thanks to the fluctuations of the GE rate. That much is certain. Okay, so are these products affecting people's biorhythms, or are they just benefiting from the GE rate? Which one is it? Maybe a mix of both. Remember the graph I showed you before? I mentioned that ever since around 5 years ago, the values would always go up on the weekends. That lines up perfectly with the Faithworks and Nozomi Group's mergers. Do you think Faithworks might be manipulating the rate? Faithworks is not that big of a company, so I don't see that being possible. Which leaves the parent company, Nozomi. They're definitely suspicious. With the whole group at their fingertips, manipulating the GE rate would be a piece of cake. Wait, Nozomi is a given, but that's not the only thing strange about Faithworks. Once I went back and took a look at the funds that trickled in when it was being founded, a real big shot came up. A big shot? Is it going to be that name we saw before, like Genichi or whatever his name was? Never mind. Yes, Inohana Kozo. Ha, well, if it isn't the leader of the Meiwa party. We've heard the Meiwa party come up a couple of times. Although at the time of Faithworks' establishment, he was still a part of the Democrat Liberal Party. It's all connected. Just like what happened with Professor Oda, as well as the earthquake from a while back, the Meiwa party's been putting pressure on the media to keep them from covering stuff that might be related to the GE rate. And about the GE rate graph, after investigating a few various sources, I found yet another interesting pattern. That looks similar to what we saw before. As of now, there were two aspects about the GE rates that Momose had her attention on. First, the fact that they consistently rose each and every weekend. The maximum values themselves were not particularly notable, but aside from New Year's, Golden Week, and the Bon Festival, they always went up without fail. I wonder what's special about those. And second, the drastic rate following earthquakes. For both the quake 2 months ago, in which there were 8 fatalities, and the quake 1 week ago, in which there were more than 100 fatalities, the GE rate had shown an extreme upsurge for a short period of time. So, about the third pattern. These spikes only happened 4 times in the past 5 years, and the times they appeared were inconsistent. The values weren't as high as when the earthquakes hit, but they were still fairly high. At first I didn't understand what it all meant, but as I looked into it, I managed to find something that would fit that description. Something that only happened 4 times over 5 years. Elections? I don't know how often elections happen in Japan. Could you tone down the song and dance and just tell us? It was! Simon's on the ball today. The elections. If we take into account both houses of the Diet, in the 4 times elections were held recently, the days when the GE rate spiked matched up perfectly. Bond stroked his unshaven chin with a stern look on his face. The elections were the opposition party. The Meiwa party made great strides and became the ruling party. If I remember right, that was 4 years ago, wasn't it? Yes, and it was 5 years ago when Inohana Kozo suddenly left the Democratic Liberal Party, then joined the Meiwa Party soon after. It's all adding up. I still want to know what's in that froggy. Everyone throw your ellipses out. A heavy silence hung in the air around the three of them. If I'm being honest, this is a little bit frightening. Yua's voice trembled slightly as she murmured. I was surprised myself. I didn't expect all of these things to line up so perfectly. Though, to be clear, this is all still circumstantial. Even then, the only reason we came to realize this stuff was because we looked into the GE rate. Had we brushed it aside, we'd be lost right now. As he said that, Ben nonchalantly retrieved his favorite handheld fan and began waving it at himself. By the way, you two mind if we talk about that one high school girl I looked into, Senna? Momose, bewildered by Ban's sudden change of topics, stared daggers at the detective. For goodness sake, you really should leave such nonsense at home. Yu-chan is right there, so would you please think twice before opening your mouth? Oh, come on. Don't be like that. A slight smirk colored Ban's face, but his eyes did not match such a sentiment. It's about Aoi Senna. Actually, to be more accurate, it's about Hatano Senna. For some reason, she's been using her mother's maiden name as of late. So this is who Hatano was. I mean, we could probably have surmised that Hatano was her father. But now we realize, okay, it's actually her father's name as well. Apparently, Hatano Senna's father, Hatano Issei, went missing and his whereabouts are currently unknown, but what we do know is that he's actually a former employee of Nozomi Technology. Huh? I wonder if Yu actually knows Senna. I can't remember if it was mentioned whether they had a passing acquaintance or not. I believe they're in the same year, if not the same class. What do you mean? Well, I mean what I said. Simple as that. Nozomi Technology was a company that primarily developed software for use in medical equipment. The Nozomi Group had begun with Nozomi Technology, but through repeated mergers and acquisitions, it had become one of Japan's top leading conglomerates. 6 months ago, Hatano Senna's mother and 1-year-old little sister passed away under mysterious circumstances. Not mysterious if you watched the last episode. Her father's disappearance came right after that. Hatano Senna then caused a massive ruckus as she ran away from the facility she was entrusted to at the time. What facility was that? She was in that cult. It's called Tenjin Dorm. It's a non-profit rehabilitation facility. To the public, that is. To the public? Are you suggesting that there's something else to it? Well, wouldn't you know it, it has this one sponsor. One that just so happens to be the Cosmic Church of the Divine Light. The Cosmic Church of the Divine Light? Momose grimaced at those words. She then spoke once more, her tone now clearly exasperated. Yet another name with an awful lot of troublesome baggage behind it. I should also mention the Tenjin Dorm was under a different name up until 2 years ago. Arc Heart Medical. Oh, okay, that's news. So Aoi Senna was holed up in the essentially the same facility that Ayase was in. But Ayase, did she get out? Was it 2 years ago that she got out? I think that was the timeline. She got out of there 2 years ago. I think is right. I would have to go back and check. So it got rebranded after some incident she was probably in the middle of. And, by sheer coincidence, the charismatic persona that's rocking Shibuya's young people, Fess, well, here comes Ban saying about what I was about to say, or rather, Kishimoto Ayase was staying there too. Now, it's possible Takumi was staying there. That'll be interesting to come up. The question is, was Kazupi? That's a maybe. Although it seems like her and Hatano Senna just barely passed each other by. Ban then leaned forward toward Momose and Yua. Well, there you go. But here's where things get interesting. Arcart Medical, unlike Tenjin Dorm, was a mental facility. They treated patients suffering from mental illnesses. However, 2 years ago, Arcart Medical suddenly became the non-profit Tenjin Dorm, a rehab facility. Due to that, all of the psychiatrists got discharged, but every single one of those same doctors got employed at the AH Tokyo General Hospital in Yoyogi. Ah, that would connect to us. Didn't the victim of the numbskull case work in that hospital? Also true. Yeah, Takashina Fumio. If memory serves, he was a psychiatrist at AH Tokyo General Hospital. Incidentally, the director is on pretty good terms with Inohana. There's his name again. Yua-chan, that Nishiju Takumi kid you were after. He's actually visited AH Tokyo General Hospital 3 times this month. Is that so? The police were following him the whole time. We know that one for a fact. Furthermore, there were even records of Nishijo being hospitalized there a few years ago. Which is weird, because apparently he didn't exist until 2 years ago. And his attendant physician? Takashina Fumio. What's really strange, though, is Nishijo's medical records. He got in at 10 years old, and a few years later, about 2 years ago, the records stopped. And there's no record of him being discharged. Could someone have falsified the documents? It's up in the air, really. That was about as far as I got. So, what they're really talking about is the Takumi who actually still exists in the hospital right now. That's the one who went through all this stuff, not the delusion. Oh, and one more thing in regards to Hatano Senna. There's a high school student named Orihara Kazue that she's been palling around with. Well, here comes that connection. She's a classmate of Nishichu's. Started about a month ago when she transferred in. This little lady has quite the backstory to her, yeah. Some of the stuff she did was relatively public. Does he know about the cutting up of the 3 students in the classroom? Her father is an employee at one of Nozomi Group's affiliates. Oh, actually, we're going to learn some other stuff, aren't we? They used to live over in Hiroshima. When she was over there, an incident occurred where 3 students in her grade were attacked by some unknown person and suffered serious injuries. Yeah, that thing Psymin Sezz. Apparently, all 3 of them got their right arms lopped off by some bladed weapon. Horrible state of affairs. Why the right arms specifically? Orihara happened to be present there that day. There were doubts about whether or not she was the culprit, but she wasn't arrested on the grounds that the weapon used to commit the crime didn't exist. The grapevine said it got too hard for them to stick around up there after all that, so they moved here. The weapon didn't exist. Don't you mean they couldn't find it? No, it full-on doesn't exist. They don't even know what was used to cut them up. Yeah, but Bond's seen his fair share of swords materialize out of nowhere at this point, hasn't he? And by fair share, I mean 1. The crime happened in such a way that no one other than Orihara could have done it, but even if she was the culprit, it was impossible for her to both pull the weapon out of nowhere and hide it somewhere. The debate raged on pretty hard on this fact, to the point where some argued whether or not it was the Kamaitachi phenomenon, also we've heard about. A magic trick involving someone pulling a sword from nowhere. Though that's just speculation. Who knows? It's not like I have a videotape in my pocket showing Senna doing it. This feels wrong. Yua, as if trying to stop herself from trembling, hunched down toward her knees, then began to stroke both of her arms with her hands. It's hard to put my finger on it, but it's as if some much greater will than we know is at play here. Well, due to the nature of the job, I can't really afford to subscribe to conspiracy theories like that. But just this once, I might have to. The Meiwa Party and Nozomi Group, those both seem related to the GE rate. The Cosmic Church of the Divine Light might yield some gold if I dig just right. I never did have pleasant rumors surrounding it. Sipping some of her tea, Momose shrugged her shoulders. Yeah, I wonder what the origin of that is. There's a whole cult thing that might be infiltrating Nozomi and causing all this stuff. Who the hell knows? You never cease to amaze me, Banchan. Putting aside even your own job just to look into strange leads like this. If we're getting down to the brass tacks, wouldn't it be your fault for cluing me in on the GE rate? That may be true, but... well, don't blame me if you get yourself booted from the investigation. Hasn't he already been booted from the investigation? You baffle me with how genuinely tactless you are. I'll say that much. Those words were neither those of astonishment nor of condemnation, but rather a fairly roundabout way of praising him. Momose, despite her words, acknowledged Ban in his pursuits. Sua? We got a call coming in. Ban's cell phone let out an electronic tune. Looking down at the display, he saw that the caller was a restricted number. Never mind. It better not be the damn You May Pass tune again. Hello. Loud static could be heard from the other end of the call. Uh-oh. Check the number. Check the number. Yep. Show me the number. Is it the number we know? Ban took the phone away from his ear and looked at the display once more. His connection was good, so he was likely not the issue. It must have been the caller causing the problem. Show the number! Ban brought his ear close to the phone, believing that the call was coming from someplace far away. Who is this? Aha! So it's, supposed Shogun with a voice changer. We don't know if Shogun was the one talking on the roof, although we have reason for it to be. But here's another threatening call, which Ban is just not going to care about again. Back off. This was one of the anonymous threatening phone calls he had been receiving recently. The mechanical-sounding voice was likely due to the use of a voice changer. The same one he used on the O-front roof. Ban let out an audible laugh before proceeding to answer. Oh, look who it is. You know, it keeps bugging me that I don't know your name. You mind giving me something to call you by? Say Shogun, do it. You is gonna crap her pants. Besides, you're telling me to back off, but what am I supposed to be backing off from? You have to be specific, or else how am I gonna know? Back off, you Columbo smartass. They always hung up there, always after saying back off twice. The pattern repeated itself so often it was practically routine. No matter how much Ban tried to speak to them, there was never an answer. But on this day, that would finally change. Or else. There's the or else you were waiting for. Huh? Uh-oh, sir. Have we gone through another kidnapping? Remy's going to go to find Nanami and Sua's going to be sitting beside her? Who's this? I'm sorry. I was careless. Upon hearing that, Ban finally understood whose distressed voice it was on the other end of the call. It is Sua. Now, wouldn't it be funny if Sua was a bad guy, like I keep theorizing, and it's actually him behind the voice changer, and he's just turning it off? Yeah. They nabbed me. Out of nowhere. Who nabbed you? Where are you right now? Like he's gonna get a chance to say that. I don't know. Who did it? They had a black ski mask. And how many are there? Just one? Momose's not going to be mad you let Sua get kidnapped. You alright, kid? Talk to me. Help me, sir. I'm an AH tote. Well, Sua, answer me, Sua. Well, shit's going down at the hospital. No matter how much Ban called out to him, there was no response from the other end of the call. I kind of wondered if the place where Nanami was actually being held and kidnapped was the room where Takami's real body is. I wonder if that's where Sua is now, too. Shogun's just got him piled up in a corner. With a click of his tongue, Ban hung up. Momose and you were looking at Ban with intense concern. Did something happen to Sua-chan? Ban stood up, then lightly slapped his cheeks twice. Sua's been taken hostage. Seems like they brought him to AH Tokyo General Hospital. Oh no. The Meiwa party? I got no clue. But what I do know is that I can't stay here. You should call for reinforcements. If we make a bunch of fuss, Sua won't be alive for long. I'll go alone. Oh, is that how you do it? Like in every other bad movie ever, Ban placed his favorite handheld fan on top of the table, close to where Momose's hands rested. Following this, he took a good long look at each of the girls. His demeanor was like that of an entirely different person. The unreliable, middle-aged detective that he had so often played was nowhere to be seen. All that was there now was an intense, fearless expression on his face. Momo-chan, Yua-chan, you two go hide somewhere safe. Got it? I'm about to Bruce Willis this shit. Through no will of my own, my legs moved in the direction of my base. They were heavy, so heavy in fact I wondered if my heels were packed with lead. Except it wasn't just my legs, my entire body felt heavy. But despite how hard it was to move, I kept telling myself that it was proof that my body existed, that I wasn't a delusionary existence. The sun had already set, meaning there was no one in the city to pay any attention to me as I staggered through the streets, forgetting all these old CGs, but they're all dark and nighty now. Before now, I would push everyone away, telling them not to look at me. I was scared of getting too much attention, of being a laughing stock. But even though I'd done that for so long, right now, I just wanted someone, anyone, to look at me. I wanted someone to see me with their eyes. If no one's around, we're going to have another incident, aren't we? I wanted someone to acknowledge that I was here. That was the deus ex machina I needed right now. But no one did. If I randomly yelled out something, I'd probably get looks of disdain. But I didn't have the willpower to go through with that. Within my sweaty hand was my cell phone, the one I'd gone out to buy with Nanami. I only had 4 numbers registered on it. Rimi's cell phone, Nanami's cell phone, Mizumi-kun's cell phone, and the number for my parents' house. I tried desperately to think of a way to prove I wasn't fake with just those 4 phone numbers. You are a delusionary existence. No, I wasn't a delusionary existence. I was real. I was Nishizu Takami. I was 17 years old. I was a second year at Sume Academy. I was in a family of 4. I was... Help me. Prove that I exist. I almost thought he was going to call it to Saratan. Saratan's just like, nope, forget it. I'm out of my league. I'm going back to my anime. My teeth were chattering. A clearly audible clacking sound. I wasn't cold whatsoever, and yet I trembled all the same. Save me. From the 4 numbers I had, I chose Mizumi-kun's. Well, how are we going to start this conversation? Yeah? Mizu... Taku! What's up? Hey, everything going smoothly with Remy? Finally lose your V-card? You got me to thank for that. I had the smarts to leave you two to each other after all. Mizumi-kun was the same as ever. That at least brought me some relief. He did know me. He recognized me as Nishizu Takami. So I wasn't a delusionary experience. Remy had just been lying. I knew it. Come to think of it, Minako asked me something a while ago. We're just coming up with names here. Like, I know Mizumi recognizing us doesn't really mean anything, but it does remind me of when Mizumi said, oh yeah, we've only known you for a month. And then when we phoned Mizumi, he sort of stalled for a second and was like, Oh yeah, that girl we've known for a year and a half. He just knew suddenly for some reason. But who's Minako? Or Minako? Yeah,
Minako.
Minako? What? Yeah, my girl. Okay, I figured that might be who he was talking about, because hell else would he be talking about? Anyway, she asked me something. She was all, "Why have you suddenly been so buddy-buddy with Nishiju this past month?" At first I thought, what is she talking about? For starters, I normally would never approach a guy like you. I sort of remember knowing you through Rimi, but I can't seem to remember anything beyond that, really. It was the same. It was the same situation I'd experienced before. Stop it, I don't want this. Don't say anything else, please. You could have just talked about girls like you always do, so why today of all days did you have to... Hey, Taku? When did we become pals again? Just hung up on him. Yeah. Interesting stuff happening in the background. Many explanations are needed. I got too freaked out, so I instantly hung up. Yeah, that noise. I felt like I was about to cry, yet no tears came. It simply felt like my heart was being torn to shreds. Ooh, there's a new graphic. Next, I decided to try calling home. That's not going to get you very far, I suspect. Despite how hard my fingers were trembling, I somehow managed to select the number and press the call button. Nanami had registered this one. I hadn't put it in myself, so there was no doubt the call would go through. Considering what time it was, would my dad be home? Had my mom left already? Was Nanami there? Even if it did connect, what would I even say? Hey, I'm your son, right? They'd probably think I was screwing with them, that I was being stupid. And in truth, it was a stupid question. Watch it just not connect. What if they said no? What if they said, our son Takumi is eating dinner with his sister in the living room? What if the phone call that was supposed to prove I was real actually did the exact opposite? What if they asked, who are you? As the negative thoughts continued to swell up in my mind, I grew more and more afraid. You just gonna hang up? I didn't want to know the outcome. I was really scared, and I couldn't control it. I felt like I was about to go insane. My breathing grew ragged. I could barely breathe anymore. Right then, the call connected. With the phone next to my ear, I prepared myself. Yep, that's what I figured. That rung for an awfully long time to get that message. We're sorry, you've reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you want, oh, never mind, it just proceeded without me. And he's just gone to crazy laughing. Foo-hee-hee. No one would prove that I was me. There was no one that could. I wanted to die. Raising my head, I noticed Yamanote Dori in front of me, with lots of cars coming and going. You have a delusion about jumping out in front of them? Maybe it was for the best that I died. There was no value in a fake being alive. I was worthless. Even if a monster did try and live in this world, they just end up being persecuted. I had neither hopes nor dreams. Boy, this guy's month has been quite the roller coaster. My existence itself was repulsive to people. I wanted to be freed from all this. If I died, I'd be freed. After all, there'd be no more need to think. There'd be nothing more to suffer from. There'd be no one to laugh at me. There'd be no one to betray me. I wanted nothingness. You're going to delusion something into reality again. And Senna's going to be pissed. I brought my heavy legs one step forward. In this place, free of traffic lights, I staggered onto the road. I had a feeling that salvation awaited me there. Oh, well. A glaring brightness from a pair of headlights. The discordant noise of a car horn. The unnerving sound of squealing tires. This is one way to get our ass in the hospital for the finale, isn't it? Come on, kill me. Kill this fake me, this unsightly monster. Kill me. Nope. But no matter how long I waited, the impact never came. What did come? You're going to have to find out next time, because we're at a little over an hour, and it is time to end this episode. But we are on the final stretch, the end game, I feel. What's going to happen at the hospital? What's going to happen to Senna? Where the hell's the Nami and her hand? And are they in the same location? Are we going to have a big sword fight? What's going to happen to our boy? Did someone save him from the impact? Or did something else happen? I guess we'll find out next time. Take care. I will see you guys around. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with the series. Thank you for keeping me company here. I will see you guys later. Have a great week. I know you will. Bye-bye.